Hi, everyone. If you can hear us, let us know.
Hey, everybody.
What do you have on your shoulder there?
Oh, this old thing. This is a, you put these little inserts.
There's ice packs.
Ice packs. And then you put it on this neoprene thing, and then it has this Velcro strap, and it straps, on any body part.
Oh. Well, is that part of the presentation today?
Well, it's part of my recovery that I got going on. And so I'm icing my shoulder, which is a great treatment for inflammation. And that is what we're talking about today. But I really do have a hurt shoulder, and I'm going to show you why.
Exactly.
And we're going to let you in on a little bit of our trip that we went on to Colorado. And, it was beautiful.
It was great.
It was great scenery.
It's great.
Some of the outcome wasn't quite so nice, but hey, we know how to take care of those things. So welcome to the program. Let's get started.
Here, let me do double recording here.
Oh yeah, gotta have the double recording because sometimes technology just doesn't work perfectly. And we are almost there. Again, technology, fast, but sometimes the user doesn't have it right. So you may have been asking why I have this ice pack on my shoulder. Great tool for inhibiting and preventing some of the ramifications from an injury. And that pain can be, kicked up because of inflammation. And it's a great bodily function that our Creator gave us is inflammation. And sometimes a good thing can be a really bad thing.
And we'll go into that.
We're going to talk about that and how to manage your inflammation when too much is, or when a little bit is too much.
All right. We get started?
Yes, please.
Perfect.
So I want to welcome you to the 3 Belief Wellness Program. Every week we go over everything that has to do with your wellness. And all of that is about, sometimes it's about food, sometimes it's about activity, sometimes it's about ingredients. And we have been going over the different ingredients that's in our CMR shake. And so a little bit of background about me. I'm a food scientist. I specialize in treatment of chronic disease and metabolic syndrome. And for the last 11 years, we've been teaching doctors and clinics an alternative to medication and surgery of how to help their patients, the doctor's patients, overcome things like diabetes, heart disease, obesity, chronic illnesses. All of those things are what we specialize in. And people ask us all the time, why doctors? And sadly, it's because that's where a lot of people with those conditions go. But what people don't realize is that most of the population, sadly, have at least one of these issues. 80% of Americans have at least one chronic disease. Being overweight, 79% of the population is overweight. That's actually a chronic illness. 37% have high cholesterol, 46% have high blood pressure, 15% are diabetic. Too many have a fatty liver disease. If you look around your neighborhood, your friends, your circle of work associates, they will have these issues. The question is do you? And how can you overcome it? And so what the science is telling us is that it's not hereditary. It's not handed down to us. It's something that we can do something about. Really what it's all about is our ratio, our FPC ratio. We want to help you understand that if you have an imbalanced ratio of where your calories are coming from, your fat, your protein, your carbohydrates, that's what the FPC stands for. If your ratio is this, which most Americans are, you're going to get those symptoms that we talked about, those chronic illnesses. That is part of the problem. So I want you to think about food as, is it killing me or is it healing me? Because really food is our medicine, but food can also be our, our injury, our malice. And so all we're really talking about is don't cut out one particular food completely. Food really is just, it's not neither good or it's bad. It's just too much is bad and too little is bad. You want to have that balance. We call it the FPC balance. For example, Americans just eat too many carbohydrates. Doesn't mean the carbohydrates are evil. It just means they're eating 51% of the calories from carbs. You need to drop it down somewhere around 12 or 22%. That's about a 400% drop. We're getting too many. And it's more important than exercise, having this balance. It's more important than supplements. Callie and I take supplements. I'm talking about supplements all the time, right? And, well, they're important, but not more important than balancing your macros, where your calories are coming from. I like the phrase, change your FPC, and literally change your life. So, it worked for me. It worked for millions of people. 11 years ago, that was me, 280 pounds. Whoa, rather robust, rotund gentleman. And in less than 12 weeks, I overcame that weight issue. I had 10 other chronic illnesses, over 10, and I got rid of all of them without medication by following the same principles that we're teaching you. So I talked about at the beginning, we went on a trip, and I had an ice pack on my shoulder at the beginning of this recording. And this is the reason why. Now look at this beautiful scene. This is me and Callie with some friends with a guide taking us down the Arkansas River in Colorado. And we're going on a river white rapids trip. And it was getting pretty rambunctious. You can see here with the beautiful pictures that we have. It was fun. It was wet. There's me in the front there. There's Callie in the back on the left. There's a great shot of Callie digging into the water, exercising. There's me going backwards because we didn't want to go down sideways down the rapids. And we didn't stop there. We also did some bike riding. Look at this beautiful picture. The mountains in the background, the sun shining through just right. Doesn't this look serene with the cool breeze blowing through your hair? But as sometimes it happens with men that used to be boys, is we get a little more rambunctious. So what turned into a nice leisurely ride turned into, well, I'm going to pop a little wheelie. I'm going to be a little more rambunctious. And that turned into this. I can handle this. I never have been mountain biking. But hey, I grew up in Wyoming and I did all kinds of bike riding before they even had mountain bikes. So I figured I was still a pro. So this turned into this. This is called the Superman. It's where you leave your bike behind and you go airborne. But because I don't have wings, it actually is more like this. That's the terrain that I was on. Rocks underneath, a rock, if you can believe it, reached up, grabbed my wheel, my front wheel, and I went head over heels. And, well, I busted up my shoulder a little bit. Luckily, I didn't break anything, but it hit at a pretty hard impact. I bruised the ribs on the front. I bruised the ribs on the back. But I had an x-ray. Nothing was broken. But I had inflammation. This is what inflammation looks like in the shoulder joint. So all that red area that you see is inflammation. It's little tiny broken blood vessels, and that's designed to be there. What it's there for is to start the repairing process. And thank goodness we have it. Now, when I'm out on a ride, we're stuck in the middle of nowhere, I couldn't have my shoulder seize up and get stiff and hard. So I kept it moving throughout the whole process because I still needed my shoulders. Imagine riding bikes over rocks with only one arm. Yeah, that's a sure way to get the other shoulder hurt. So you can kind of push off the inflammative response by just keeping movement going, which I did. After that, I started taking heavy doses of anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen. And then I started icing. Today, we're going to talk about turmeric. Now, we use a special form of turmeric. This is one of the ingredients that's in our meal replacement shake, our CMR, and a great, great ingredient. I like going through and telling you why, clinically, medically, why we put these ingredients into our food formulation for you. It's not just because it's in the news. And remember, turmeric is all over the internet today, but it wasn't 11 years ago when we came out with our formula. And so we use a special patented formula that does some special things. What turmeric does is it really does focus on cancer and cardiovascular diseases, Alzheimer's disease and diabetes, arthritis, the autoimmune system, pulmonary issues, and neurological diseases. All these things clinically are affected or are interlinked with inflammation. And so this is where long-term inflammation, which is chronic inflammation, starts causing a problem. Acute inflammation is what I had on this biking trip. It was temporary, it was an injury, and it's supposed to go away. Chronic stick around, or it sticks around for too long, kind of like an unwanted visitor. Now, we use a patented formula because of this simple reason. It has 25 in vitro evidence that it works. It has 21 preclinical proof that it works. It has 53 and counting clinical human-based tests. It has 99 studies so far based on this particular patented formula of turmeric. It's just not just any turmeric powder. It's got to work. And why is that? Because our body does not absorb turmeric well at all. It just is not one of those ingredients that absorbs very well. And so you need more help. There's and I'll go into a little bit of the science of why we need extra help. But if you look on that first line, I'm just going to go through 10 clinical studies that have been initiated by the company that holds this patent, the one that I buy for you, the only one that Callie and I and my family take, is the active ingredient in turmeric is the curcumin, and that's the magic juice. But there's not very much of it in the turmeric root. And so we get this patent that has an extraction process that greatly increases the concentration of it. But also, if you'll see that second word, piperin, that's the piperin that we talked about a few weeks ago that we also put into the CMR to make the curcumin and all of the other vitamins and minerals have a much greater absorption rate in your body. That's just that also is a patented formula, and we only give you the absolute best. Now, this particular study has been going on, approved for the FDA in their drug division, even though it's a natural product of oncology. And whenever you see oncology, you know it's for cancer. The second one that's out right now is for the human colon, cysts and cancerous, that's being done right now in New Jersey Cancer Institute. Another one is the pilot study of this particular formula with the same bioperin that we buy for you that puts into the formula at the University of Texas for multiple myeloma. And then we have one for Alzheimer's that's going on. Yes, they found that has a great effect of the formula that we're talking about. Not all turmeric, just this particular company. These are all studies done by the company that we buy the turmeric from. That's at the University of California. Here's another one of the University of California. Now, lichen planus is a skin issue. It can also affect the hair and the nails and your mucous membrane in your nose and in your mouth. And so they're doing a patent or a clinical study for that. There's another one for women's breast cancer found being effective, and so they're doing a clinical study on it. The seventh one in process right now is another cancer issue. Moles basically that turn cancerous, and so it's a topical treatment of this same formula that I give you. And here's one for colon cancer being done in New York. The 9th one is for your esophagus and carcinoma at the University of Texas. And then there's one being going on just overall all cancer issues in the chemo preventive study in the UK. Now, you may wonder, why in the world did you go through this, Jason? Why? Because it is your choice. When you're choosing any ingredient to put into your body, is it a good idea just to say, hey, look, there's somebody talking about turmeric and how good it is for us? Or does it make a difference as the type of formula? It's kind of like a car. If you're going into business for catering and you're going to bring food to employers or to people down at the park, do you want to get a Ford Fiesta, or do you want to get one of those high vans that has all the kitchen equipment loaded on? It makes a difference, doesn't it? It's your choice, but do you want one that has absolutely no studies on it, or do you want one with lots of studies? I'll choose a thumbs up. I'll choose definitely the studies. So the formula that we have is literally the difference between one that has 99 so far studies that have been done over the last 12 years on this formula and 10 more in process, or just a powder ground up and stuck into a capsule. It makes a difference. This particular curcumin called C3 has literally been found to have the effects on all of these benefit or all of these maladies, all these diseases, ranging from cognitive health to cancer, from radiation issues to metabolic syndrome, which you hear me talking about all the time. Here's an example of the difference between just a regular product of turmeric or fresh turmeric root. And in the bottom graph, it shows in hours. So they did a blood test of every quarter hour, so every 15 minutes, right up to 3 hours. And after 3 hours, both the regular turmeric and the formula that we give you bottomed out, and there was no effect. So it only lasts for about 3 hours, which is great because we give you a dose. By the way, I'll say a clinical dose, what they did in the studies, in every single CMR. And how often are you eating? Well, you're eating every 4 or 5 hours. So right when it wears off is you're having another boost of this powerful turmeric. But if you'll notice that at 45 minutes, it peaks at 2,000% stronger than regular turmeric. It's stronger all the way through, but look, 2,000%, that's what I want that for my body, for my family, because our body doesn't absorb this ingredient well. Now, real turmeric is not bad. It's just that it only has a concentration of 2 to 5% of the curcumin that you're looking for. And extract, ours that we use, is 35%. So we increase that many times more, but we add it with the piperin, that's the black pepper extract, patented formula that boosted another 2,000%. And that's the combination that makes all the difference in those clinical studies. So here's just kind of a chemical example of why, and I won't go through this because unless you're into chemistry, it's not going to make any sense. But there's a lot of exchanges that go on at the cellular level of how things are absorbed. And there's things that are in the way. Now, here's a more simple example. It's called the NF kinase B signal pathway. I know it's kind of confusing, but that's what they call the process that's being done when your cells are trying to absorb the curcumin from turmeric. Now, what happens is, I'm not going to go through all 4 of these different pathways because there's 4 ways that your body can get it or it be prevented. We're just going to talk about the receptor side, the one over on the left. Those 2 that I've circled here are the ingredients that will happen when you take too much omega-6. Now, you've heard omega-6 is great for us, but if we get too much, it actually turns on the inflammation process in our body. So there's a couple of ways we can get inflammation. We can get it from the foods that we eat. That's what I'm trying to point out here. In this example, there's too much omega-6. That's why I give you 2.5 times more omega-3, because it's the opposite effect of omega-6. The other one is pro-inflammation, is high carbohydrate foods. Now, it's not the foods themselves. It's that when that high carbohydrate food is broken down into glucose, it will then trigger an insulin response. An insulin hormone is pro-inflammation. It causes your cells to make inflammation. So, for example, let's put this in practical application. After my fall on the bike, which was really skillful. I mean, I didn't just fall. I did it with style.
And I didn't even see
You didn't even get to see it.
No,
I was behind. I was the last one. And I did that because if I was riding wild and crazy and Callie was behind me, she'd be yelling at me, telling me to slow down. Right. So if I would have immediately started munching on some potato chips or a granola bar or a sugary drink, I actually would have been adding to the inflammation that was caused by the tissue being bruised. Okay. So by me being hit by that rock, go over to the next column, which is the far right, saying the IKB proteins. That's a chemical response of injury. Something's happening to the body, and so it'll create. And then I also eat food. Then I'm getting a double whammy effect. That's not what you want to do. So after you've had surgery, what they found that you're going to have inflammation, right? They tell you don't go on. The newest studies are saying don't have a high carb diet after surgery. Your recovery will be longer. It'll take longer for you to heal because of what I just barely pointed out. The next area that you can get higher inflammation from food is from your microbiome. Bacteria, the wrong kind of bacteria in your gut will actually start up and cause more inflammation in the rest of your body. Okay, so those are some clues of what can happen. So the why turmeric is so good is because curcumin, or what they call curcuminoids, is an effective bioprotectant. It's an antioxidant that stops free radicals from just doing all of their crazy stuff. Our formula actually has been shown to stop their formation of free radicals in the first place. So one, it stops free radicals from traveling around to your body, but it also stops a crude metaphor is it stops the free radicals from having babies in the first place, so you don't have new free radicals. It's been shown to be a COX-2 inhibitor. Now, COX-2 is the same basic medication that someone with arthritis will take. So they'll take that's a type or a COX-2 type of a medication. Well, this formula that you take is a natural form of a inhibitor. Great for arthritis. It does not have any of the negative side effects that COX-2s will have for your gut. Anyone that's on that will tell you that it hurts their gut, gives them gastro problems, where turmeric and our formula doesn't have any of that. So it's great also with preventing connective tissue breakdown, which COX-2s do. It makes your ligaments and actual muscle tissue a little bit weaker. So that's not a good thing. The clinical studies are great for antioxidant support, Alzheimer's disease and dementia, cardiovascular support, great for athletics. It's great for your immune response, be able to fight off those colds and germs and bacteria, and wound healing. It's great for rheumatoid arthritis and post-operative inflammation. I talked about that, like after an operation, taking extra doses of that would be fantastic, and all kinds of different cancers. And so what Callie's going to go through is she's going to talk about the application of how you can get more turmeric into your regular diet. But as good as turmeric is, I love the taste of turmeric. It will never replace the concentrated dose that you're going to get in your CMR. You're getting the equivalent in one serving of the CMR. You're getting the equivalent of 2.5 cups of shredded fresh turmeric. Now, I love turmeric, but I don't love 2.5 cups per serving. That's the benefit of the concentration. And then you add the piperine to that. And now we're talking about the equivalent of having to take 50 cups of turmeric to get the same effect. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's just too much. You can never get that much in. All right. So I'm done. Callie, it's all yours.
Awesome. Great information about turmeric and inflammation and his injury, which is getting better past couple of days, which is great. So those who don't know me, I'm Callie Whitney, married to Jason. We have two wonderful girls, 9 and 11, and almost 12. She's my oldest one, loves basketball, and she's in Super League basketball, so we're constantly busy. And my other one's in basketball too. So I've been a wellness coach for 3 Believe for the past 1.5 years, and I've helped hundreds of people and love it. So in order to, share my experience, I actually got results as well. So here you'll see that this picture is about 1.5 years apart. I went on the program Memorial Weekend of 2016. So talk about, getting my feet wet on a holiday and through the summer. So, and within 8 weeks, I recovered from my digestive issues, which were pretty major. I didn't feel like eating. I was constantly bloating and gassy stomach, and I mean, you name it. And within that 8 weeks, I also lost 22 inches, dropped 8% body fat, gained muscle and hydration, and I feel amazing. And I've kept it off for over 2 years now. So that's a little bit about me. As what Jason said, I will be talking about causes of inflammation and how to control inflammation. Jason talked about his injury and the effects that it can cause, of the good effects of inflammation that can cause, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some good and some not so good, and then some other foods that you can actually eat to help with inflammation on top of the turmeric. So the word inflammation actually traces back to a Latin word for set a fire. That burning sensation, pain, redness, swelling, that is what causes inflammation. Now, like heart disease, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, it's not so obvious. And that's where we would like to talk about the two names or two different types of inflammation. One is the acute, which is brief but injury healing, and then the one is chronic inflammation, which is an ongoing stimulus of inflammation that we do not want. The acute is for healing and like a quick stimulation, but the ongoing is something that is not very fun. So the acute inflammation is obviously short term. It is signs of pain, redness, immobility, loss of function, swelling, and heat. And it's not so bad, right? That's a good sign that your body is doing its part in healing your muscles, your tendons, and your bones to heal in the process of how it's naturally healing. Just like Jason's shoulder, when was that? That was Saturday. And because of the foods that the nutrition, right? And the care that he's taken care of his shoulder, that the swelling has gone down drastically. However, that's acute. Your body's going to do what it's best known to do. The other one is chronic inflammation.
Now, if I continue to eat a high carbohydrate diet, while my body was healing, then that inflammation could stick around for weeks.
Right.
And then actually turn into a chronic inflammation, what you're talking about.
Yes. So the chronic inflammation, if it's we're on your diet, right, and other contributor factors to your mobility, it could keep inflamed. And these are the symptoms and causes of chronic inflammation. Now, it begins at the cellular response, right, lingering in a state of persistence for months or even years. So, I mean, you may not even know today that you are inflamed or have chronic inflammation at all. It's just the small little things that you can do to prevent it and eliminate the chronic inflammation to heal your body. Because over time, this is what can cause the chronic inflammation. So your body is always on high alert sometimes. So over time, you can end up with too much of a good thing, which Jason just mentioned, of chronic inflammation, and it's on high alert. So the prolonged state of emergency is the lasting damage. So they promote for example, when inflammatory cells hang around too long in the blood vessels, they promote the buildup of dangerous plaque, just like in your heart arteries. It's the same thing with chronic inflammation. The body sees this plaque as foreign and sends more of it, the fight responders, to your body, which we don't want. So too much of a good thing is not always the best. So what are some ways to get rid of some inflammation? And that's where I'm actually going to go into more of the natural way of doing it, as far as food. So what other foods besides that we can get into our...
And if I could just interject, don't ever misunderstand that the CMR is natural food. It's all natural. It's food-based. It is considered a natural food. It's just normally people don't think of a drink, a meal replacement drink, as real food. It really is. You as a baby that nursed, you were getting real food by your mother, and all that was liquid. It's just not the common idea of real food.
Right.
I know.
But it's almost the best because of the 32 pounds of nutrition.
That's right.
In one serving of the CMR shake. So I pulled up some studies or information on the web and looked through many different types of foods, and I came up with 15 different foods that can help with inflammation. So green leafy vegetables, they are packed with vitamin K, vitamin A, and C. So, and that helps with that because it has a high antioxidant, especially vitamin K.
And it's low carb.
And it is low carbs, right? Bok choy, which I'm not sure I've ever tried.
Sure. If anytime you've had any Asian food,
okay.
They use bok choy all the time.
And again, it's low in calorie, low in carb, and high in antioxidants, vitamin K, A, and C. Number 3 is celery. And you know what? Celery always tastes delicious with our peanut butter.
What did I have as a snack last night?
Celery and peanut butter and nuts.
Yeah. Had a stalk, not a whole stalk, a thing of, what do you call one of those things from a stalk? A stick?
A stick?
You call it a stick?
I think it's celery stick.
Okay, I had a celery stick with our peanut butter. It was fantastic.
So we actually we cook with celery seeds as well. And they also help with lower inflammation and fight bacterial infections. So if you're cooking a meal and you want to add those celery seeds to some meat or vegetables, they taste wonderful. So that's an alternative. You don't want to eat the celery stalk, right? Beets, they have a high antioxidant as well. Cyclooxygenase enzymes. These anti-inflammatory compounds inhibit the activity of the enzymes which the body uses to trigger inflammation. So this one has a little bit higher potassium and magnesium. Manganese is it? Do you know what manganese? I didn't study up on that one.
Yeah, it's a great coefficient binder, which is great for any of those water retentive minerals like potassium and magnesium, and that's one of the reasons why it's so useful and helpful for anti-inflammatory.
Great. Number 5 is broccoli. Look at all of those vitamins and minerals. I mean, you can go wrong with broccoli, definitely.
Why didn't President Bush like broccoli? It's wonderful.
I love broccoli. You know, it's also low in carb and very good for your body. Blueberries. Now, blueberries is, you know, the berries in general are better of a fruit to choose if you're doing a low carb diet, but blueberries actually have more of the vitamin K and C and magnesium than other than like raspberries. So blueberries is a great antioxidant for inflammation. Pineapple. I was actually surprised to see pineapple on the list of many research that I had done for lowering inflammation. And the common factor of a lot of these foods that I've seen is the vitamins and actually manganese and magnesium. So
now be careful with pineapple. It's the reason why it's on the list for an anti-inflammatory is because of the enzyme that's in pineapple, which plays very, very well with your microbiome, which, as we talked about earlier, your microbiome being in balance can be pro-inflammative. And this is the opposite, but you can get a lot of sugars from pineapple. You really don't need very much of it. Don't eat it just by itself unless you're in Hawaii and you get it. Okay, you just got to have, some by itself. But the rest of the time, eat it with the rest of the fruit. Eat it with something else. But unless you're in Hawaii, then go ahead and indulge and then get back on the low carb.
On the low carb.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? Grilled pineapple is delicious in Hawaii. Salmon is another great inflammation food. It has high in omega-3s, which is great. And it's a good fatty source of meat.
Of omega-3.
And omega-3. So eat up some salmon. We actually had some delicious salmon last night that Jason cooked. I am not a particular fan of salmon because of the kind of like the fishy taste, but man, I couldn't even taste it all.
Do you want to know the recipe?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take your salmon, you take some mayonnaise or Miracle Whip, and you put it on top of the mayonnaise. Then
the salmon?
Of the salmon, and then you take the underappreciated herb, which is dill. Take some dill. Don't be stingy with it. Sprinkle on some dill, some salt and pepper, and then put in some raw bacon. Couple of bacon strips on top. I didn't use raw bacon last night because I had pre-cooked some bacon, just threw it in the freezer. So I just sprinkled some bacon crumbs, but it was fine. And then you just close it up in a foil, throw it on the grill, and voila, it's delicious. Even our girls loved it.
I know. My daughter that's all she ate, which was awesome. Bone broth is another way to reduce inflammation. It tastes great. So if you want to replace some of your hot tea with bone broth to help with that, it's great.
Now remember, you know what the benefit and why bone broth is so great is because of the collagen.
Yes.
And it's don't forget that if you get the peptide version of the CMR, you're getting a much stronger dose of the collagen, which is what is in bone broth. So you can get a 2 for benefit, but if you just want to make a good soup base and you want to use bone broth as you're adding some of these other vegetables, that's a great way to do it too.
Mm-hmm. And tastes great. Walnuts. Now they have another omega-3, so it's high in omega-3. They help with type 2 diabetes. Obviously, it's low in carb as well. Great way for antioxidant and anti-inflammatory nut. Mm-hmm. Coconut oil, which we actually have in our omega-3 or omega.
Well, we have the 1/2. About 1/2 of coconut oil is MCT, so medium chain triglycerides. We have just the MCT version of the coconut oil.
And this coconut oil you can actually cook with. So it's a great alternative when you're cooking some vegetables. It tastes great. If, I actually cooked it one day with broccoli, and it kind of gave it that little sweet taste, and it was delicious. Chia seeds is a great another alternative to add into your CMR. So I actually have done chia seeds in a little energy bar or little ball, those little energy balls that I've made before with the high fat, and they taste great. You can't taste them. They taste tasteless. It's another way to adding omega-3.
Yeah, it's a great way to boost your omega. If you're starting to feel a little bit more inflammation, you take our oil, omega oil. But if you want more omega-3, which is going to fight that inflammation, then just only 3 tablespoons of chia seeds, you're getting almost 900% of your daily recommended dose of omega-3. So
wow.
Yeah, you're doing great of an add-on.
Right. That's great. Learn something every day. Flax seeds. I actually put flax seeds in my little balls too. It's a great way to get the omega-3. So and
flax seeds actually the highest seed source of omega-3, by the way, higher than chia seeds. As you can see here, it's almost 1,200%.
And that's the 3 tablespoons?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. Definitely. Turmeric, which we are discussing, which Jason discussed, to the science behind turmeric and the reasons we add it into the CMR, the great benefits of an anti-inflammatory spice. Is it a spice or is it a...
Well,
it can be both.
It can be both, sure.
Turmeric is used for, what's that meal? Indian meal, isn't it?
Masala?
Yeah. And ginger. So we actually have fresh ginger here usually at home. And we shave off some of the ginger and put it in our water with lemon. And it tastes great. And add a little bit sweetener and it tastes even better.
And it's great for your gut.
Right. So you want to avoid these, which we all know that trans fat, excessive sodium. Now, excessive sodium, if you're eating a high carb diet, is not all that good for you. But on a low carb diet, sodium is great. So don't mix the two.
You can have high sodium, which is great, healthy for your body. Has to have it more than any other mineral. But it only plays friendly if you're on a low carb or low insulin producing diet.
Right. Added sugar, nitrates, and preservatives. That's the reason we have everything that we make. All of our CMR, our shakes, and the smart foods are all natural and no preservatives. And they're low in carbs, so you can actually have, that carb fix you want and have a low in carb and taste great. Exercise is another way. So this is just an added benefit to some of the foods that are on top of the anti-inflammatory. But exercise is great because it increases your endorphins. It gets that good circulation going. It's a great way to sweat and get your body moving. And inflammation, that's one of the good reasons of reduction of inflammation is keeping your body going, just as like Jason did with his shoulder. He kept it going. I'm sure if you stopped, it would have swollen a little bit more.
Well, that night as I went to bed, I woke up the next morning and it was like it was in a sling. I could hardly move it until I started getting that thing moving again because we had more games to play.
And sleep. Sleep is probably the foundation of good health in general. Getting that good 6 to 8 hours of night is a great way to reduce your inflammation. It helps your body to heal itself. Sleep in general is a great way.
How much sleep should we be getting? I know that you might not be getting enough. Some people brag even, I only sleep 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day. I'm too busy. Studies show that you'll live longer and you'll have a higher quality of life if you're sleeping in that 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day. But at least be getting in that at least 7 hours of sleep, or you're cutting things short.
Yep. So that is our presentation today about turmeric and inflammation and the causes and not so good things and the great things of inflammation. If you guys took advantage of our special last month of the ashwagandha, it will be, we're prepping it, all of it to this week.
Yeah.
Bills shipped out by hopefully Friday to those orders that were placed. It's going to be rolled out onto the website here this week. So look for that. We're excited. We're excited to bring it to all of you. And anything else?
Until next week, we give you another ingredient that we put in the CMR shake, and great ways that you can adopt that ingredient into your life. Until then, we care about you, we love you, and we wish you good health.
All right. Take care.